Hello, and welcome to my full review of New Japan Pro Wrestling plus some other companies, Wrestle Dynasty, which just took place earlier this morning. I'm in the UK. I woke up at 2:30 to watch this, so I'm pretty tired, but we're going to get through this. I really enjoyed the show. I'm going to break it down match by match, let you know my thoughts, overall thoughts on the show, etc., etc. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section down below as well. With that in mind, we'll just jump straight into the first match. That match was Momo Watanabe, who was accompanied to the ring by Thekla. Is that how you pronounce that? Anyway, it was a four-way match with Watanabe, Willow Nightingale, Persephone, and Athena. So Watanabe was representing Stardom, Nightingale representing AEW, Persephone from CMLL, and Athena from Ring of Honor, because for some reason Athena isn't main roster AEW. My first thought on this was that it's crazy that this was on the pre-show, because I remember this being like one of the foundational pieces for building up this event. The main things I heard about for the longest time in the build to this show were this match and Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega. And I think this match was the first thing I heard about. So the fact that it went on absolute first on the pre-show, it's kind of crazy to me. Persephone wore her mask only for her entrance, which, because I believe they had like the partial entrances, either that or because it was really early in the morning and I'm sleep deprived, I ADHD'd out for a bit, but I don't remember seeing any of these women actually get into the ring. Persephone was wearing a mask on her entrance and then wasn't when in ring, and I did a quick look up of this, and apparently she voluntarily unmasked in 2023. I didn't go any deeper than that, but yeah, that's quite rare for a luchador or luchadora to voluntarily unmask, right? So if anyone's got any insight into that, someone who knows a bit more about Mexican wrestling than I do, specifically CMLL, yeah, comment below. It'd be welcome information. Her face really strongly reminds me of someone. Like, the moment I actually saw her face, I was like, wow, she looks like, and then my brain went blank, and I haven't been able to bring it back since. And I posted it on a couple of social medias, and I had a few people making some guesses. None of them hit. None of them got that reaction out of me where I was like, yes, that's who I'm thinking of. So if you can think who Persephone looks like in the comments, it'd be of great assistance to me, because it's bugging me. Don't just try and make it fit. Don't be like, oh, she kind of looks like this person. No, it was I looked at her face and immediately thought of this person. A real strong connection, and I still don't know who. So yeah, comments welcome down below. Willow was grunting a whole lot. I know in Japan there's a lot more sort of grunting and just sort of shouting random syllables than actual words and stuff, and a lot of sort of American and Western wrestlers adopt that when they do a tour in Japan. But Willow really took it to the nth degree, and she sounded a bit, honestly, she sounded a bit like a caveman when she was doing it. Like, honestly, I don't remember Willow doing this in AEW. If it's just something I've never noticed, then I'm honestly flabbergasted. But it just sounded a bit silly. Like, it actually took me out of the match a few times where Willow was just grunting when she was doing moves, or having moves done to her, or lying on the floor in pain, or just breathing. She seemed to be just making these just ridiculous noises the whole time. I noticed other wrestlers that don't usually do a whole lot of grunting doing more of it, because obviously I guess that's part of the style. But none bothered me like Willow's did. Willow's was really weird. Anyway, so the end of the match came when Thekla prevented Athena from winning, I think off the Eclipse, I can't remember. I didn't write down who she did it to. But yeah, Thekla dragged the referee out, but it wasn't a very well executed false finish. The referee kind of had to pause and get dragged out. It wasn't the best timing I've ever seen. But while she had the referee distracted, Watanabe, how did I pronounce it? I was pronouncing it confidently before, and now I've forgotten. Watanabe, I'm going to say, hit Athena in the face with a bat, and it looked like quite a brutal swing. Either it's a gimmicked bat, or they're just very good at faking that shot, because it looked really good, actually. And then hit the Peach Sunrise, I believe the commentator said it was called, which was kind of like a suplex with a sort of pump handle grip. But not exactly. But yeah, it was that sort of thing. And then pinned Athena, which is the first pin that Athena's taken in 2 years. Which was interesting to see that happen at the hands of a Stardom person in a New Japan event. And I know people are going to say this was a cross-promotional event. It was a New Japan event. It was in Tokyo. It was in the Tokyo Dome. It was very much Japanese rules for all the matches. It was very much Japanese presentation, and I have actually broken down the numbers of like number of wrestlers, number of matches, number of wins for each company. Spoiler alert: the pre-show is the only place you see Ring of Honor. So yeah, while people will say, "Oh, it's a 5-promotion cross-promotional event," no, it's New Japan. I guess you could include AEW. But it's New Japan, maybe AEW, and friends, and guest appearances is the reality of it. But yeah, it was interesting that this was done on this show. I guess, is Watanabe gonna use her shot on Athena? Would make sense, as she's just pinned her. So maybe we get like a one-on-one match in Ring of Honor between these two, or even in Stardom, I guess. Or she could just go after a home turf title as well, go after the Stardom title. I don't know. Let me know what you think she should do. I think she should go after Athena. I think that's... Why else do you pin Athena in this match when she's not been pinned for 2 years? If you don't follow up on it, it makes no sense. You could just have easily have had Willow Nightingale or Persephone take the pin. Next, the other pre-show match was Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru challenging Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. They called the Sons of Texas or something. We're both from Texas, and that makes us friends, because Texas is a tiny place where everyone knows each other, obviously, and everyone gets along. No, yeah, they're the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and this match was for those belts. I didn't do any formal predictions. I probably would have guessed that either Willow or Athena was winning the 4-way, so I would have got it wrong either way. I think everyone probably knew that the Sons of Texas were retaining the Ring of Honor tag titles here, and it was a fairly straightforward tag match, but it was fun enough. Like, it was fine. There was nothing bad about it, just nothing outstanding about it either. The finish came when Dustin spat whiskey in Kanemaru's face. Kanemaru's whiskey in Kanemaru's face. Then Sammy hit a super kick. He fell into the final reckoning, which apparently is what he now calls that twisting suplex he's done for decades at this point, I think. And then a swanton by Sammy, and then Dustin covered for the 3. Can't remember what happened to take Sho out of the action, but yeah, they retain, obviously. And I still find Sammy Guevara quite unlikable as a character. Like, I know he's supposed to be like a babyface now, but he's just basically the same gimmick as when he was a heel. Like, he's the same exact character, and I don't think it's particularly likable. Like, it's fine for some people to not really change their gimmick up when they turn face or heel. Like, I get that, some do work as both, but I don't think Sammy Guevara's current character works as a babyface. He comes across as really arrogant and narcissistic, like, which are not traditional good person babyface characteristics, I would say. To kick off the main show was the Lucha Gauntlet match, which featured 4 CMLL luchadors and 4 New Japan junior heavyweights. Out first was Hechisero, who I think I've seen on AEW before. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've seen him. Because I've never watched CMLL, so I'm not familiar with a lot of luchador stuff, but I think I've seen Hechisero once before. Fujita was out second, so they started the match. Out next was Soberano Jr., who I noticed had really nice entrance gear. He had like this gimmick, this Jesus gimmick, which I thought was really interesting. Out next was Master Wato, who everyone knows I love him. Hate Master Wato. Why did his face have to ruin my my enjoyment of this show. I just hate him. I just absolutely hate him. Really can't stand the guy. Next was Mascara Dorada, who was Grand Metalik in WWE, for those of you that don't know that name, but know your WWE stuff. Yeah, that's who he used to be. The commentary team called him early 20s. Is he really early 20s? Because I feel like he's been gone from WWE for a couple of years. He was around for a few years. How young was he when he signed? If he's early 20s now, was that just commentary getting it wrong? I didn't look it up, but it sounded wrong to me. Out next was Taiji Ishimori, then Titan, and then last out was of the 8 was El Desperado, the current junior heavyweight champion. And when Despy came out, it was fun because all 7 other guys stopped fighting and just waited for him to come down the ramp, and he sort of hesitated on the ramp, so they went out and beat him up on the ramp and threw him in the ring, and then they all hit moves on him. There was a fun commentary moment. I hate the guy, but whichever commentator it was, screaming Watto maneuver when he did the outside dive. Mwah, chef's kiss. That was great. That was great. I still hate Watto, but that commentary was magnificent. In the end, Taiji Ishimori pinned Desperado, and then got into an argument with Fujita. And I'll be completely honest with you, because like I say, it was so early morning. Like the main show started at like 4 a.m. I think, and I didn't sleep much last night. I missed the finish. I sort of zoned back in at the point where Ishimori was pinning Desperado. So someone fill me in the comments exactly what happened there. I meant to go back and watch it, but then completely forgot by the time I got to the end of the show and started recording this. But yeah, so Ishimori's pinned the champion, so I guess that's the first program for El Desperado as the new junior heavyweight champion. And that match was fine. I predicting it. I didn't even know who was in it. I don't even know if this match was advertised, so would have been quite hard to predict. But once we knew everyone who was in it, I would probably have gone with Desperado. Although it makes sense to have someone pin him to, to line up a challenger. But I probably would have gone with Desperado, so I would have been wrong. Next was Shibata versus Tanahashi, except they put a 5-minute time limit on it and called it an exhibition match, and it was just, honestly, it was lame. The commentary team, I know their job is to rave over everything that happens. They were raving over it, and I don't know if this is like a super unpopular opinion. I thought it was rubbish. They did a collar and elbow tie-up. They had a 5-minute time limit, and they did a collar and elbow tie-up for like 30 seconds to a minute of it, and then they chopped each other for the rest, save for one headbutt from Tanahashi where I suddenly perked up because I was like, oh, is it going to get a bit more spicy now? No, they went back to chopping each other for the remainder of the time. It was rubbish. Like, they shook hands after it. I thought it was pointless. And then Tanahashi was holding up one finger, which might have been him signaling he wanted to do it one more time, like a proper match, which I'm all for if they do a proper match. Just don't waste our time with this. This could just have easily not have happened, or been the proper match, or the save on Wrestle Kingdom could have been used to promote whenever the second match is. Like, I don't know, just this felt like a waste of time. I didn't enjoy it. Like, I didn't care for it. It was just two guys slapping each other in the tits. Like when I get that can be compelling within the context of a match, but when that's the entire match, no, not for me. Not for me. Rubbish. Next. No one won. They went to time limit draw. Knowing the match was announced, I would have probably guessed that Tanahashi would have won. But knowing as soon as they said it was a 5-minute time limit, I was like, okay, it's a draw. So I would have predicted it right from the moment I knew it was a 5-minute time limit. Up next, it was Mina time. Mina Shirakawa. We want Mina taking on Mercedes Moné for both Mina's Rev Pro Undisputed British Women's Championship and Mercedes New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Mina, of course, perfection. Like, as always, no notes. Like, Mercedes came out in some sort of cosplay, and I didn't fully get the reference, although it looked a little bit like it might have been something from Sailor Moon, but I don't know Sailor Moon, so I might be way off base there. Again, let me know in the comments. I am very ignorant to a lot of things that get cosplayed as animes and movies and stuff like that. I'm not the most familiar, but hey ho, I've got a brand new reaction channel, so maybe some of this stuff, people might compel me to watch and put on the reactions channel, EBEZA Reacts. So check the link to that out in the description below. Cheap plug, woo! So yeah. Monet was the story of the match was like Mercedes Moné having either a bad knee or both knees injured. And yet, she used them in so many different offensive moves. Like, I get wrestlers having a recognizable moveset, but when using your recognizable moveset is to your own detriment, and you don't seem capable of being flexible with that moveset, I think it just makes you look like a worse wrestler, like, than you would have looked like if you'd just adapted. Like, She used a backstabber and rolled around holding a knee. She did a Meteora and rolled around holding a knee. She did the corner, like lies her opponent in the corner and then does the double knees onto the midsection in the corner and rolled around holding her knees. And it's like, maybe just stop hitting things with your knees, whether that's the floor or your opponent's back or whatever. Maybe just stop doing it because you've got bad knees. Like, come on, bit of common sense. Other than that, this match was really good. I'm gutted Mina lost, and I'm actually genuinely surprised as well. Because, to me, I would have predicted Mina here, not because I'm a huge fan. I would have supported Mina because I'm a huge fan. I would have picked Mina here purely because I just didn't anticipate... I almost said Sasha Banks then. Mercedes Moné making appearances for Rev Pro, which I'm sure they're massively looking forward to. I bet their fans, like, who already have tickets for the next show or whatever, are really excited about that. But, because, that is a pretty big deal. But yeah, I just fully saw Mina Shirakawa as New Japan Strong Women's Champion as a much more plausible thing than Mercedes Moné as a Rev Pro Champion. And the TBS title wasn't on the line, so I think I would still have seen Mina winning as more likely, even if it was the TBS title as well on the line. That's how crazy to me it is, the idea that Mercedes Moné is going to be the Rev Pro champion for some presumably short amount of time. After the match, the match ended with the weird finisher thing. What did you call it? The Moneymaker? Yeah, I think it's that. The one where she botches it half the time, but when the half where she doesn't botch it, it looks alright. It looked alright today. So kudos to Mina, I guess, because the only thing that seems to change between her hitting it successfully and not hitting it is the person taking the move. And sometimes the footwear. She tried it in heels once and it didn't go well, if I remember correctly. But yeah, assuming she's in wrestling gear, it just seems to be down to whether the opponent can take the move, and Mina took it like a champ, so well done, Mina. So after the match, Mercedes offered the handshake and Mina slapped it away and then sort of screamed one more at Mercedes. So maybe Mina will just win back the Rev Pro title, like, at the next Rev Pro show, and it'll be like a one and done deal with Mercedes for appearing for them. I don't know. I could see that happening for sure. But yeah, they definitely bigged up doing another match between the two, which, yeah, more Mina is a good thing, universally. Next match was Brody King against David Finlay, who came to the ring with Gado. I put, during the entrances, I think I typed this note, which was, Finlay surprised me by being the powerhouse versus Tsuji. Let's see him triple dominate a Brody King. Like, that was impressive on Tsuji. If he'd have done that in this match, I'd have been, like, blown away. Like, genuinely. He didn't. So this match was, like, 90% Brody King just beating the hell out of Finlay. It was very fun. The end sequence, though, where Finlay fought back into it was very impressive. He, like, did the powerbomb into the alley-oop, where they drop them backwards out of a powerbomb, but into, like, Snake Eyes in the corner. Then hit a legit powerbomb. That looked really good. And then hit the overkill, which is, like, he lifts them like it's a vertical suplex, but then just drops them forwards onto a knee to the face. That didn't look so great, if I'm honest, but still, like, very impressive display of strength on the powerbomb, and impressive teamwork by the two, because, you know, half of a powerbomb is the person taking it, and Brody King's a big boy to be taking a powerbomb, so yeah, kudos to both of them. And yeah, Finlay won, and I think Finlay winning here was quite predictable. Like, he's just lost his global title, so unless they're going to do, like, a full collapse storyline, which I just didn't feel like that's where they were going, yeah, Finlay winning on home turf here, and Brody King can lose infinitely many matches and not lose any of his aura, it seems. Like, he's got it, you know, so yeah, I think Finlay winning was a fairly obvious result. Not as obvious as the next one, though. Shota Umino versus Claudio Castagnoli. I'm one of the world's biggest Castagnoli marks at this point, I'm pretty sure. I'm a huge fan. I think he's been incredibly shortchanged over the course of his career, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I have a question. Is the bike part of Umino's just standard entrance, or did he just do it again because it was the Tokyo Dome and they still had the setup the same way or something? Like, I'm not really super familiar with Shota Umino since he sort of rebranded himself, like, as this, like, flamboyant version with all the pink on his gear. So is that just standard procedure, or did he just decide to do it twice in a row? I don't know. I assumed it was a Wrestle Kingdom special, but I mean, it happened again, so now I'm not sure. While Shota was walking down the ramp, Claudio attacked him from behind, which you don't see a lot of in New Japan at all, like people jumping the gun on entrances and stuff. So that was a fun little surprise. I genuinely didn't see it coming. And then he threw the paper world title that Umino's been carrying around into the crowd, which was a really nice touch. Really nice heel move. This was a really good match. Like I mentioned before, I'm a big Claudio fan, and I'm really quickly becoming a Shota fan. Like I say, I'm not super familiar with his work, but these last two events, yeah, I'm sold. Two great matches, honestly, for him. Him winning makes sense. The story is obviously building to him eventually having a match with Mox, whether that's for the AEW World title at maybe Forbidden Door, or maybe that's just like after Mox drops the title, he does a bit in Japan of finishing the Shota Umino feud. However they do it, obviously they're building to that. So I guess intermittently, Umino will have to deal with Wheeler, Yuta, and Pac before getting his hands on Mox eventually. At the end, someone handed him his paper title, and I was like, did someone really just go out into the crowd and be like, right, all right, who's got it? And just get it back and go and give it him back? Because that was wild. Like, I think one of the Young Lions gave it him back. I'm not saying they went into the crowd and got it, but, like, someone obviously did. Either that or he's got, like, duplicates and it's not really been given to him by a fan at all, or it's not necessarily the same one that was given to him by a fan. I don't know. Either way, that was a weird little wrinkle at the end. I was like, why does he get it back? Like, in kayfabe, why does he get it back? Anyway, next match. Tomohiro Ishii challenging Konosuke Takeshita for both the AEW International Championship and the newly won Never Openweight Championship. This was probably, for me, the most predictable match on the card. Just because Takeshita only just... Oh no, you know what? No, not the most predictable, but probably second, maybe third. But it was one of the top most predictable matches on the card. Takeshita only just won the Never Openweight. I don't see Ishii being like a permanent enough AEW fixture to hold the International Championship. So yeah, Takeshita was always winning this, but it was a very fun, hard-hitting match nonetheless, to the surprise of no one. Ishii hit a Frankensteiner off the top, which was to the surprise of me, at the very least. I'm sure a few people were surprised by that. That was spectacular. Takeshita won with the Raging Fire. I didn't make many play-by-play notes on this one. Just a really good match. Hard-hitting, standard Ishii match. But they don't seem to get old. You know, they're always good fun, right? Ishii matches. Next was the triple threat for the vacant IWGP Heavyweight Tag Titles. Great-O-Khan, who I found out through commentary, was champions with Hanare, who got injured, so had to vacate the titles, and then teamed up with Jeff Cobb to fight for them back, which does beg the question, in other companies, I guess New Japan takes its like title lineage a bit more seriously than a lot of American companies have in history, but there's been lots of examples of, like, say if someone's partner gets injured, they Jericho and Edge in WWE springs to mind, where Jericho was able to just draft in Big Show and keep the tag titles and just give Edge's title to Big Show. Yeah, obviously New Japan don't do that. They just vacate the title and make you earn it back, which I guess is fair. But so it was those two against Takahashi and Naito, who obviously fought at Wrestle Kingdom yesterday. And the third team is the Young Bucks. Still in their EVP sort of gimmick, but with their old New Japan theme song. So a weird sort of mix of Young Buck eras. This match was under Tornado rules, so no tags, so maximum chaos, so I was all in favour of that, because I was wondering if it was going to be like the 2 legal men or the 3 legal men variant of triple threat tag matches. Turns out it was 6 legal men, so yep, power to them. This was a really, really fun match. Some Great O'Khan broke up some pins with some phenomenal timing, like ridiculously good timing, honestly. That was one of the things that stood out to me. Obviously everyone's doing their thing. There's some amazing Young Bucks like teamwork and flippy dippy stuff, and the other guys are more than pulling the weight as well. Jeff Cobb is unreal, does the combinacion cabron at his size, like insane. Yeah, so there was obviously some great moments, but the thing that stood out to me was the Great O'Khan pin breaks. They were really good. And the Bucks won with the Meltzer driver to Great O'Khan, which really surprised me. Like, when this match was coming on, I was thinking, I think it's going to be Great O'Khan and Cobb, but I could fully see LIJ winning it. But it's definitely going to be one of the 2 New Japan teams, and then it wasn't. So, guess I was wrong again. For anyone that ever doubts the authenticity of my predictions I go through, I would score so much higher if I was lying about who I thought was going to win matches, like when I only do it on a review show. I'd score so much higher. I'd maybe get a couple wrong, but I'd get more right than I do. Anyway, next. Yota Tsuji defending his newly won global championship against Jack Perry. This was the most predictable match of the night. Ain't no way Jack Perry was winning the global championship from Yota Tsuji, who's they've clearly got massive plans for, and only just won the title yesterday. Like, absolutely no way, no chance, zero. I would have bet actual money on this match. Like, I definitely would have. This was a good match, although I feel like from what I've experienced over this weekend, Tsuji matches, he does too much. This is going to sound like a weird criticism at first, but bear with me. He does too much selling. And I don't mean in the sense that he makes his opponent look good, and that's a bad thing, because obviously it's not. But he spends too much of the match, too high a percentage of the match selling for me. He's a big, dominant-looking dude, and him selling for over 50% of the match for Jack Perry just didn't look right. I know it's difficult when it's a babyface to sort of balance that, but he's such a dominating looking guy, and he just doesn't dominate any of his matches, and he probably should get a bit more offense in, like a bit more domination at some portion of the match, Yeah, it just looked weird him fighting from underneath against Jack Perry. Like, strange. There was another good commentary line. I talked about the Master Wato one before. Jack Perry distracted the ref, spun him round, pushed Tsuji at him, and he turned round to, like, duck and cover so he didn't get wiped out. And while the referee was turned around, Jack Perry hit Tsuji with a low blow, and the commentator said, "Right in the Giant Bernards," which I just thought was a really fun little line and a great callback to an old New Japan character that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And if you're not, if you know Albert or A-Train or Lord Tensai or whatever his dancing version of Lord Tensai was called, was it Sweet Tea or something? I don't know. Yeah, that's the same guy. That's Giant Bernard in New Japan. Tsuji won this match with a Gene Blaster, his spear. I mean, super predictable. It was one of those where it was just sort of waiting for the believable guy to go for pins so he could fall for the false finishes, because I was never believing a Jack Perry false finish like in that match. Never. Again, I was wrong about this yesterday with Takahashi versus Naito, but I would have had to heard to have heard the referee slap them out a third time to believe that, like, the only false finish I would have believed would have been a real finish. Like, there's no false finish I would have ever believed in that match. No Okada after the match, because the commentary were talking a lot about how Okada left New Japan after Tsuji challenged him to one last match. And obviously, in AEW, you've got the loose, it's now quite loose anyway, alignment between Jack Perry and Okada. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't wheel out Okada, honestly, to set up a future Okada-Tsuji match. That feels like it's coming down the line at some point. With how much commentary we're pushing on that during the match, it just feels like it's definitely a story that's going to happen. Just don't know when. Up next. Whoo boy. Okay, this has the most notes by far on my... I'll try and get through it quickly. I'll try not to waffle for too long. But Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega. What a match. Okay, let's try and start from the start. Gabe Kidd came out in like a tracksuit, and when he took it off, he had like New Japan trunks. And I think he was pointing at, he had a new tattoo. The ink looked really fresh. You know when it's still kind of bluish before it's like fully settled, before it fades a little bit into like that greyish black. Yeah, it looked really fresh, that ink on his arm. But yeah, the trunks, he was like big time playing up to the crowd, being the babyface in this one. Omega's ring jacket, like his entrance jacket, was really cool with the Omega, the Greek letter cut out, showing off his underboob. Like, yeah, that was a really cool jacket. Yeah, the crowd, I mean, to be honest, the way it's been built and the way Kid was acting in his entrance, maybe I should have seen it coming, but because Kid's part of Bullet Club, I was like, he's the heel. And so I'm not sure if it was completely by design or if it was like well improvised. But either way, the crowd was really behind Kid and actually booing Omega quite a bit during this match. And the match did develop with Kenny being the heel. But I wonder how much of it was we saw these reactions coming and how much of it was on the fly. We'll probably never know, but I'd love to know because stuff like that fascinates me, like how the inner workings work. I love that stuff. Kid got busted open by being powerbombed through a table, which shouldn't be a problem, except he got busted open on the front of his head, on his forehead, from being powerbombed, back first through a table, but, whatever. I've seen other examples of that in other wrestling companies before. It tickles me. It's like, your face didn't hit anything. Why are you bleeding from your face? But whatever. I mean, you could maybe argue that when he folded or something, his knee hit him in the face. Like, you could maybe make that argument, I guess. Kenny was busted open by being hit in the head with a piece of table. That one, more believable. Hit right in the forehead with just a half a piece of table that he'd just been put through by Gabe Kidd. Yeah, this match was wild because there was a point after Kid got put through the table and busted open, Kenny Omega jumped from the top rope, like springboarded from the top rope, over the ringside barricade onto a pile of people that I believe included Bryce Remsburg, the ref, because we never saw him again. So this just descended into like this just no DQ brawl for way too long, by the way, until Red Shoes managed to get out there. Like, I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he'd lost one of his red shoes or something. I don't know, but he took so long getting out there, and that tickled me. It was just like, oh yeah, we need an excuse to let them just do some no DQ stuff for a while. So yeah. I put in here, I think I know the answer, but at the point where I asked it, I was genuinely wondering. I was like, is Kenny actually injured with his hip injury? Or is he just a phenomenal seller? Because it was at the point he climbed to the top rope and he fell, and it looked so legit like his hip genuinely buckled. But then later in the match, he did a standing Hurricane Rana, which I don't think you can do with a hip that's so bad you can't climb the turnbuckles. So I figure it was just really good selling. But it wasn't that he remembered to sell it. Loads of people can do that. It was the nature of the sell. It looked genuinely like a screw-up instead of like a story beat. Like, it looked really good, in my opinion. They both took 2 unprotected chair shots to the head. I'm not a fan of that. In 2025... I almost said 2024 then. I've got to get in the habit of saying 2025. But we know far too much about concussions and the dangers of hitting people in the head with a piece of metal, which I can't believe people ever thought was okay. But we know now it's not okay, right? And how not okay it is. So the fact that we've still got people doing unprotected, ungimmicked chair shots to the head, because I remember I defended the Hangman Swerve one because the chair was so gimmicked that I was like, that feels like it was about as safe as a chair shot to the head can be. This wasn't. This was just hitting someone in the head with a piece of metal. Like, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. The only thing from the match I wasn't a fan of, I genuinely cringed at that because I just don't think there's any need for it in wrestling, no matter how personal you want. Like, the way to do it is the Hangman Swerve way, but I just think there's no need to do it at all in wrestling in 2025. I think there's plenty of ways of telling the story of I hate this person than hitting them in the head with a piece of metal. Yeah, after that's about when Red Shoes Uno finally showed up. I put in my notes about 3 days after Bryce was wiped out. Yeah, it was a while, wasn't it? This match was phenomenal. This was match of the weekend by far, and I wrote that note before the main event, but the main event was always going to be good, but there was no way they would tap in this match. This should have main evented, to be honest. It was originally, I think, advertised as the main event, and I think it probably should have mained. Although, to be honest, with the nature of the match, I think it was better finishing with like a proper wrestling match, like that didn't have all the no DQ brawl shenanigans or the blood. Like the main event felt more New Japan, even if the semi-main was a better match, like a more entertaining spectacle. Yeah, Gabe Kidd was using like New Japan Legends moves, enziguris and abdominal stretches, and every time commentary were right on it, pointing out this is from this person, this is from this person. This was Gabe Kidd being a New Japan guy through and through, and using his knowledge of the history of New Japan to like his advantage, which was great, against the dastardly outsider Kenny Omega. I put here, originally, had I done a predictions video for this, I would have predicted Kenny Omega to win. Definitely. But throughout the match, I actually completely 180'd to the point where I thought, the only option is to have Gabe Kidd win. And then they had Kenny Omega win. I genuinely entertained the thought when Kenny hit the One-Winged Angel that they were going to have Gabe Kidd be the first person, well, second, but the quote first person to kick out of the One-Winged Angel. I genuinely was like, they might do it, you know. They didn't, but I thought they might. It's one of the few times I've ever actually believed there was a chance of the kick out. I feel like Kidd should have won, honestly. I'm a believer now. I don't know a whole lot about Gabe Kidd before this. Like, I've seen bits, but this him being in a proper spotlight, he's shone. Like, he was so good. I'm fully on board with Gabe Kidd. I think he's great. And I put good luck following that, you know, to Ricochet and Zack Sabre Jr. because their match was always going to be good, but it was always going to be overshadowed by this match. At the end, they showed Tanahashi on commentary crying. Now, I don't know if I've ever been moved to tears by a professional wrestling match. Professional wrestling moment, Eddie Guerrero tribute show, Bray Wyatt tribute, maybe. But a match, I don't think has ever done that. I maybe Tanahashi just loves wrestling that much more than I do. You know, to a level that I can't even comprehend, and I love me some wrestling, but maybe he just loves it to such a different level that I can't comprehend that emotional reaction. But I'm making a prediction now. Tanahashi versus Gabe Kidd next year's Wrestle Kingdom, Tanahashi's last match. Calling it now. The fact that they put so much focus on how moved Tanahashi was by this match and this performance, presumably most moved by Gabe Kidd in this, I think that would be a great pick, and it's actually what I'm going to predict for Tanahashi's last match at next Wrestle Kingdom. Put him over, you know, really, really elevate the guy. The only thing I would take over that would be genuinely him in the world title match at this point. Like, he just feels like such a star that he needs to be up at the top of the card. Like, he's proven that he really should be. So, yeah. Book it, whoever's in charge of booking with Tanahashi as the president, you coward. Is it still Gato, Jado, whichever one of them it was? I think it's Gato that used to do the booking, right? Is it still Gato? I guess it probably is. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, let me know who you think would be a good pick for Tanahashi's best match. And you better be willing to back up why it's a better pick than Gabe Kidd in the comments, because I think that's genuinely a really good idea. finally, the main event, Ricochet challenging Zack Sabre Jr. for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was the other of the top 3 most predictable matches. Only less predictable than the Tsuji one, because Zack Sabre Jr. didn't just win the title yesterday. But there was a minimal chance that Ricochet was winning this match, like less than 1% in my opinion. But that didn't stop it being fun. And you know what? Really good way to start the match was what Ricochet did of jumping Zack Sabre Jr. and doing loads of high spot stuff immediately from the start to get the crowd back. Oh, right, stuff's happening, because they were probably on such a kind of a cooldown from having to recover from the Kid Omega match that I think doing that as the start was a really good idea. I don't know if they planned that anyway, or just based on knowing they were going on after Kid Omega and that was going to be crazy, or if they saw that match and went and spoke to each other backstage and were like, right, we need to start our match off hot because this match is wild, let's do this. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'd love to know the inner workings of stuff like that. I probably never will. But, yeah, it was a great way to, however it was decided upon, it was a great way to start the match, in my opinion. This was a really good match. Again, overshadowed by the semi-main, but by no means even an average match. This was a really good match, really enjoyable. Ricochet missing the 630 was crazy. Ricochet going for the 630 was crazy. Like, he doesn't seem to be doing that a whole lot in AEW. Admittedly, I'm about a month behind on AEW, so he might have used it in the Continental Classic or something. But, yeah, that spot was crazy. And then Zack Sabre Jr. won by submission, which also surprised me. With Ricochet having just kind of turned heel on Dynamite and cementing that, obviously he was going to lose, but I feel like him getting pinned would have been, I don't know. It sometimes feels like when you first really drastically change someone's character, you need to protect them a little bit more to establish the new version of the character. And I mean, tapping out to Zack Sabre Jr. is no mark of shame by any stretch. You know, he's the best technical wrestler in the world. He's the best, maybe, wrestler in the world, but he's definitely the best technical wrestler in the world. Can make anyone tap out. I just wonder if they could have sacrificed one of the Zack Driver near falls to just have it be the end of the match, and it would have been better for Ricochet. I don't know. But, yeah, after the match, Zack gave a pretty standard babyface speech. There was no appearance by Goto, the next in line, I guess. Which, you know, I never thought he was going to jump him or anything, but I thought he might show up and be like, oh, hi, yeah, I'm next. I want my shot at blank, you know. But no, none of that. Right, final thing I'm going to go through is how many wrestlers each show had, how many matches each show had, and how many wins each show had. Because when I said at the start of the video this was a New Japan show, maybe you could call AEW a co-host, but the others were just kind of bit part guests. It almost wasn't worth recognizing which company they were from as part of the show. It was more just like, oh yeah, we've got this outsider person on the show as well, because that's fun, you know. So, starting with Stardom, who were always going to have the least because New Japan isn't exactly heavy on female wrestling. If they'd have done a fully balanced show, it would have been really cool to feature a few more Stardom people and a few more women from like the other companies. Obviously, New Japan can't put up any women because they seem to just exclusively use the Stardom roster and a few other people like Mercedes Moné and what have you. But they don't have a women's roster as such, as far as I can tell. But yeah, they had 2. And they got 1 win. The opening 4-way. They actually got a win. I thought they might have gone 2 for 2, actually. I thought Mina could have won. But yeah, they got 1 win, so not terrible. Like, you know, considering they only had 2 matches featuring any of their women, they got a win, so that's good. Ring of Honor had 3 people. And they were all on the pre-show. 2 matches, again, both on the pre-show. 1 win. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have just called that part of AEW, to be honest, but whatever. CMLL had 5, but let's not forget that 4 of them were in that Lucha Gauntlet that was seemingly for nothing up until the point where someone pinned Desperado, and it was like, oh, well, I mean, because you've been the champion, you can probably follow that up, but it was not pre-announced as being for anything. It was just a throwaway random gauntlet match. So they had 4 people in that, and they had Persephone in the 4-way as well. They won 0 matches. CMLL, no wins. Nil point. Next, we do a slight jump from 5 people in 2 matches to AEW with 11 people in 10 matches. The only double up was the Young Bucks. And they got 4 wins out of 10, so 40% win rate. So actually a worse win rate than Stardom. But, I mean, Stardom only had 2 matches. It's impossible for them to have had a 40% win rate. They were either getting 0, 50 or 100% win rate, right? So it's kind of not a fair comparison. But still, 4 out of 10, not the most impressive. And then New Japan, 17 wrestlers, because they had 4 in the Lucha Gauntlet. They had 4 in the Triple Threat Tag match. AEW only had the 2 in. So they had a few dotted about. 10 matches, and 5 wins. So the most wins, the joint best with Stardom win ratio. But again, 5 from 10 is a lot more impressive than 1 from 2, I would argue. And 17 people. The next closest was 11 from AEW, and then you had to less than halve that to get to CMLL's number. And again, most of which were in that throwaway gauntlet match. So, and even if you throw away the gauntlet match, New Japan still had the most wrestlers on the show. But only by 2 if you throw away the gauntlet match. Anyway, my point is, that was an AEW New Japan show. CMLL, Ring of Honor, Stardom, they were kind of just special guests at best. Like, the fact that it was billed as being a show with all of them, and then we never saw anyone from Ring of Honor on the main card. We never saw anyone from CMLL outside of the gauntlet match on the main card. Like, why could like the CMLL World Champion not have been involved? Like, I don't even know who that is, but why couldn't they have been involved? Like, you know, it just feels like that could have been more cross-promotion. That's my main complaint about the show. The show as a whole, the matches and what have you, pretty much across the board really good. Like, I don't remember hating any of it. Like, I don't remember even disliking any of it, if I remember correctly. I think the worst match was probably the Ring of Honor tag title match, which was a perfectly serviceable tag match. It was just perfectly serviceable, happened to be the worst thing on the card, because the card was really good. But yeah, maybe a little bit more feature of more Stardom, more women in general, because you can feature Stardom more by bringing in the women from the other companies, the AEW, etc. Where's Mariah May? Like, come on, Mariah May versus someone from Stardom, like, would have been amazing. The CMLL representation, like, you know, more Ring of Honor guys. It's difficult with Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor is basically NXT, and if you did a cross-promotional event with WWE, most people wouldn't be tuning into that to see NXT guys, you know, like, so yeah, I see why Ring of Honor wasn't that heavily featured, but nonetheless, I think the cross promotion is my only real complaint. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the show, like thoughts on how the cross promotion was done, the results, the individual matches, whatever thoughts you have. Do let me know. Let's have a discussion. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. I intend on doing lots of reviews of shows, also predictions videos on things that I'm a bit more familiar with. Just realised I let my hood come down during all that chatter. There we go. Let's put my hood back up. That's more comfy. Yeah, but like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill. All I have left to say, though, is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been EBEZA, you've been amazing, and I will see you next time.